It is 6:31. We'll call the Monday, September 25th, City Council meeting to order. If we could please start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. With that, do we have any additions to the agenda tonight?
No additions, Mayor.
I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. That will take us to public comments. If there is anyone who would like to discuss anything that is not on the agenda, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll close public comments. We'll move to consent agenda. Is there anything on the consent agenda that needs to be pulled for further discussion? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. That will take us to the update on the Creamery property.
Evening, Council. So from the last meeting, I understand, and just from common sense, that the biggest concern right now about that creamery is the safety. And last meeting, we were talking about a two-pronged approach at this stage, which was one, to secure the building from any what's the word I want to, just off the cuff kind of mischief that could occur. It's not something that could be locked down, but in terms of anybody that does not have a predisposed plan to get in, they would not be able to do that. So as you can see, the signs, one of the parts to that was to put up signs, and you can just roll through these. Which was because there had been signs that had come down over the years. At least one faces each side of the property, if not two or three. And there was two actual breach points, potential, that were pointed out by Dave Nelson. Okay, if you could stop there. One is this vent, which is actually, it's kind of hard to tell from the photo, but it's about 8 feet off the ground. So it was unlikely source of entry, but just nonetheless, it's been boarded up. And then the next one, which was actually half open, and that was, I think, the biggest point of concern. So that's all been tightened up and good to go.
Good. Looks good. And Nick, you've been out there. Property. You feel everything looks fine?
Yep.
Okay, so next was, thing I wanted to talk about was, this is good news, the hiring of an engineering firm, MBJ Associates. They're one of the leading structural engineering firms, and associates of Kirk, who was present at the last meeting. And he represents New History. He's the principal of New History, whose task it is to actually restore and come up with new ways of using older buildings. So we're hired on. They're going to start Thursday morning with the assessment. And we still are on track to deliver by the meeting of the 23rd of October, I believe. With regard to that, the overarching question is, why did all this take 6 years? And the pretty obvious answer to that is it's funding. And fortunately, the wheels are turning in that direction. And there's a couple of actions that the council can take that could definitely make those wheels turn faster and more productively. First thing is, there's two things. There's the county, and then there's the Met Council money. County has a funding for pre-development, which is a $7,500 match grant. And I believe you've just done this recently with the old fire station. So I'm asking for that. And That would have to be, I understand it's got to be voted on by you all. It would have to be done at the next meeting. And then in order for it to go underway and be processed through October, and then money can be doled out 1st of November. And that would tie into this. I was talking to Chuck Swanson this morning, who's over at the CCZDA, he's the director, I believe. And he said, yep, you can actually start on the work, and we can make that payout as long as it's not completely passed and paid out. So we make it for this batch of work. So if you're all agreeable to that, if looking into that, Nick and I are going to come up with the application, get that going, and that would be for voting on for next meeting.
So for quick reference on that, the last time it was done was for the old fire hall, and how it works, it's a reimbursement style program. The city acts as the financial agent. But like with the fire hall, the grant we just got, the money comes to us, then flows back towards the applicant. So in this case, as was the case with the old fire hall with Brad Quass, it's $7,500 is the maximum you can get. It's a 50-50 match. And the same with Brad Quass's case. He provides the match as part of that. And in this case, Nick would provide the match as part of the pre-development. The pre-development is meant to pay for structural reports, plans, things like that.
Yeah, it's as I'm sure, it's an extremely expensive process. Engineers, let's get your children to be engineers. The big one is the Met Council. And that is another actionable event by you. And that has to do with getting to be eligible for that. The city mayor has to be enrolled. In order for it to be enrolled, there's what they call the Equitable Housing Act has to be endorsed by the city. And that's another thing that we're going to look into. That's also fairly timely, whereby it would have to be voted on by November 1st, the first meeting in November, the second Monday, but the first meeting in November, because it has to be submitted to them by November 15th. And that would be for next calendar year. So that we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Once we have the structural engineering report, and if it's positive, then we'll really talk about going forward. And I don't want to be too premature with talking about timelines and when things can begin, when we can get people in here, to actually work on the roof and such. But so let's just say that that will address once we have that report. And the report is due to be delivered. It will start as I said on Thursday. They're going to take about a week and a half, 2 weeks, and then there's going to be a little bit of time for Kirk and myself to go out and get bids. So we'll have some more substantial positioning in terms of how much funding is needed. But generally, just to put it on your radar, it's going to be a fairly long process to get the full granting that we need, and so it might be as long as a year. But I'm also, when we talked about the securing of the building, I consider what you've done is just sort of like the baby phase one. There's other things that can be done. We talked about having the fence similar to up here, that kind of operation. There's other kinds of things. I'm considering the possibility, maybe I'll just call the sheriff over and we'll do a walkthrough, things like that. So we'll get to that. I think cross that bridge when we need to come to it. But to look forward to, if not being here next meeting for another update, then the following one we'll actually have the report in hand, and we'll have that to you, and then we can really get into the meat and potatoes of timelines and things like that. Considering if the building is in fact found to be sound.
Right. Oh, that's great. Any questions for Nick?
No, I'm just excited to see forward progress.
Yes, I think we all are.
Yeah.
I think the spur of Nick has been a good process to that. But really, it's the roof. Oh, and I did not send that slide over, and I'll have it next time I'm here. Just the idea of the roof collapse is a very dramatic act. But I was actually up there a few days ago, and it's the actual, in terms of the structure of the roof, it's a square building more or less, and there's 4 beams that cross it that were then holding the joists crossways. What has collapsed is in between 2 beams, and from the roof you can see it's about 10%. of the roof. So it's really, it's not like the roof has collapsed. And not to belittle the importance of this, because water and stuff is coming straight in, but it's a smaller percentage. It's in between the beams, and after we talk to the engineers, we'll know better whether those beams are actually still good or the whole thing needs to be replaced. But damage, but further, and this is the thing I'm really concerned about, which I'm going to get on the engineers with, is what is the arc of deterioration right now? Like, so in other words, if they find it sound now, yeah, but what about a year from now? It's like when the actual works get done. So that's definitely something that I want to have built into the report so we can talk intelligently about it to you guys next meeting.
Right. Perfect.
So a little bit more about the grant. I mean, when we talk about that's got to be written in 2 weeks and applied for, is that?
So for the pre-development grant, that one's pretty straightforward. For the CDA, I should be able to get that done, ready to go in time for 2 weeks from now. I'm confident I'm able to do that. Nick will need to help me with some of the details, just as Brad Quast, I had to get some details from him, but should be pretty easy to put together just for the pre-development grant. That one's pretty easy.
Okay. And so so 2 weeks from now, we're into October. Funding, you said, happens in November?
As early as November, yeah, if it's submitted in time and it goes to their meeting, which I believe is October 16th, and they can then pass it at their meeting, then between the 16th and the 1st, I think it just has to get signed by Mayor Dodge, and then they cut the check. So that's actually pretty darn
Okay.
fluid and very positive. Yeah, and that's the one that addresses the right now in terms of the larger issues that we're
And that'll go beyond just this feasibility or,
that's what it'll go right into that. I mean, that'll pretty much eat the whole thing,
so
assessment.
but the feasibility has to be done by the middle of October. So if you don't get the grant, are you still able to?
I'm glad you asked that, because that was the question I asked Chuck this morning. Is it okay? Like, how do we work? What if the work is, where is it commenced and all that kind of stuff? And he said it's okay. I understand that you can't wait until having a check before doing certain things.
Reimbursed from it.
Yes, that's,
Okay, but you can front the money and move forward with getting the feasibility and all of that. Okay, I was trying to make sure there was no
that, yes,
ask of if we do the grant, then
we wait.
we wait. So, okay.
I was actually, had it not gone that way, I was actually coming to hope and ask you for that extension, but like, fortunately we don't have to. So I made that clear.
Okay.
Any other questions? So one, I thank you for securing the building as you said you would, and we continue to move forward with the plan. So thank you for holding up your end of things. We certainly appreciate it.
My pleasure, and I really look forward to working with you guys.
Yeah.
And also getting into the really good parts of this, which is potential use.
Great. Thanks for coming in, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that your bag?
All right. With that, we'll move to the resolution of the preliminary levy and budget. Nick.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. There we go. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So the preliminary levy and budget resolution reflects the conversations we've had about the budget to date. These are all the numbers that we looked at for the general fund, the preliminary, having that at $471,216. These are all the CIP decisions that were made from the last meeting. The debt service is all in there too, and then it wraps it all together down here. So these reflect the numbers that we've been working with to date. And then it also sets the truth and taxation hearing for December 11th at 6:30 p.m.
All right. Any questions or comments on this proposed resolution?
And Nick, we can't go up, but we can go down.
Yep.
We can continue to tweak, but we can't go any higher.
Right.
Okay. I know I sound like a broken record, but
All right. With that, then I'll look for a motion to approve resolution 2023-31, the 2024 preliminary levy and 2024 preliminary budget.
A motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, just a comment, Nick and staff. I want to thank you for all the work you've done. This has been a smooth transition into this budget process. I think it's been great. I just want to thank you. You guys did a great job.
Thank you.
So with that, all in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. That will take us to the adoption of ordinance 240, regulating cannabis use in public places.
This was posted on our website to conform with state law with the 10-day period. So we introduced it at the last meeting, and ordinance 240, this is the one that regulates cannabis use in public places. There are 3 places that we cannot touch, and that listed there, as you can see: a private residence, including the person's curtilage or yard; private property not generally accessible by the public unless the person is explicitly prohibited from consuming cannabis on that property; or premises of an establishment or event licensed to permit on-site consumption. Everywhere else can be defined as public place. Through our discussions, we were talking about having that just be confined to the parks, essentially, not the parking lots, not the in vehicles, but the park system and our public buildings as well.
Thank you. And this was introduced to us at the last meeting. Are there any questions or comments for the city administrator? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion to approve ordinance 240 regarding the public use of cannabis and hemp.
So I'm sorry, I was slow and you were fast. I do. The only thing, right, when we first talked about this, we talked about not allowing it where you can't smoke, and then not where it was intoxifying, right? Created intoxifying, whatever, right? So you can't walk down the street and drink beer or alcohol, but this ordinance would allow people to walk down the street and smoke marijuana. So that is just one thing I know as a council, we all agreed on that smoking and, right, that was our goal, right, was the smoking and the intoxication factor of it. So this, I know we're talking about it being a starting point, but this doesn't get us to where our goal was, as we had talked about as a council. So those are my comments. So, I mean, right, I would like to see it not be allowed on the streets because you can't walk down the street and drink alcohol.
well, public sidewalk, right? You can't consume it in a public place.
So for this, the public public areas confined to, it's sorry, my head's straight here. As part of this ordinance, it's just confined to for the public parks. So if you wanted to walk down the street or alley or down the trail in the public right of ways, it would be allowable to smoke or consume it in those areas.
I just don't foresee a huge group of people walking down the sidewalks at Mayor.
Can we today walk down the street with a beer?
No,
No,
You can't consume alcohol in public.
No.
Unless it was an event or something like that.
correct.
Right.
right, like music in the park, for instance,
Yep.
if they get,
Knucklehead's patio, because that's part of their premise. Now, you can't take a beer outside and start chugging it on the sidewalk or down the street. That kind of public consumption is prohibited.
I just don't think, I mean, we can put it in there. I just don't think
I
we're
thought
gonna
we
have
were
a
just
huge
matching
issue.
what with alcohol, but I wasn't part of every single conversation.
right, and
So
that's what I thought too. And so last week, it was a surprise to me when I asked the question. I did vote for it. There was only 3 of us, assuming the full council would be here. That's why I'm bringing it up. So I voted to put it out there as a, what'd you say, a notice?
Introduction, and then we put it on this
Introduction.
website, so if people
Yeah.
want to comment, they can read
Yeah.
it.
Yep. So I did, right. I voted that, I was okay with this. The more I thought about it, I didn't feel like it aligned with what we had talked about. I talked to some other residents, just looking for input, like, so how does this feel? And the feedback I got, and again, right, like, my circle.
Yeah.
It's not like I was knocking on doors or anything else, but yeah, they, the feedback I got was if you can't walk down the street and drink a beer, you shouldn't be able to walk down the street and smoke marijuana. So
Is that hard to put in this?
No, so it has not been passed yet, so if we want to make language changes, now's the time.
Okay. And then we have to repost it for 10 days?
Yep, so then what would happen, so process would be if you want to include that, you want to include streets, alleys, those public right-of-ways, trails, you can't do it on. That's fine, we can add those in, so right up here under public place, we would add streets, sidewalks, alleys,
Yeah, no,
trails.
but now hold on. You can't smoke a cigarette and you're like, if you're walking down the street.
Cigarette, you can.
this isn't cigarettes. This is.
Well, I know, I
cannabis.
understand that, but
This isn't.
But you can't walk down the street and drink a beer. So,
Right.
right. We were trying to encompass
Right.
Yeah, I
both,
think-
wherever, where we limited or where the law limits
Right.
smoking and drinking.
I was under the same view as I wanted just a copy where if you couldn't drink a beer there, you shouldn't be able to
Right.
smoke or consume
so,
that type of product. And I think that that's where we start. Yeah, we're a little bit more stricter, but you can change it.
And it's consistent.
It's just consistent with the policy. That's where I feel. So I'd like to add and make it match.
so we table
Does
this. for
it make
now?
sense, Nick, to table this to the next work session?
So what we would do is, we wouldn't, if we're looking to make changes, I would say, get a consensus, take a quick hand poll of what language changes you do want made. And if we want to put that language in, I can put that in. I will post it tomorrow. It will be up for the 10 days, and at the next council meeting, it comes back for adoption once again with the new language.
So do we want to just do like a hand, like people that would be interested in changing the verbiage to match? Because I would.
And I'm
I
in
would.
favor of making
Yeah.
it more strict, a little
Sure.
more. Maybe take a second look at this.
Makes sense.
And again, I don't think we're under the gun.
No, and
by
there's
any
no
means, so-
confusion then.
Right.
Yeah.
There's just no confusion.
No intoxication
No.
stuff anywhere.
Right. I mean, because
In
if you can't
public
drink a
place,
beer here,
yeah.
you can't.
Right.
I'm just afraid all of a sudden, like, right? I mean, I asked the question, can you walk down the street and drink a beer? I don't know if I should admit, I don't know all of our ordinance.
No, I mean,
Right. But
It would
again,
be
if,
impossible to know them all.
yeah.
you see somebody walking down the street, and then you think I can walk down the street with a beer just because you don't know, not intentional, not trying to be.
No, but ordinances I think are more in place if there's an issue, not necessarily to,
Right.
we're not necessarily watching
If we
or
need to
look.
Fall back on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because,
Because it's not,
I mean, you can stand on the street talking to your neighbor and you have a beer in your hand, it's not gonna be enforced. I mean,
Right.
right.
Now, this stuff doesn't have to be posted like on a street corner or anything, right?
No.
Okay.
No,
Well, I'm just saying to cover our butts. I don't know.
we don't have to sign anything or do anything like that.
Okay.
so I'm good either way, Nick, if you wanna
Sure.
push this through and maybe change the wording, add a few things in.
Yep.
Or if you want to bring it to a work session, I don't think we're under the gun for any reason to move this through, but
I think.
whatever you
I think
wanna
we
do.
table it. All we're going to be changing is what public place means. We're going to be adding in basically the right of ways that the city has. And then we bring it back to the next meeting for adoption.
Yep, I'm good with that.
Sounds good.
And
And I think it's just easy. It's easy to just say,
And that's for both ordinance 240 and 241.
241 shouldn't be affected
241 should be okay.
because 241 is specific to parks.
Got it. All right, then we'll table item number 15 for the next meeting, and then we can move to ordinance 241. Nick, any comments on that?
No new comments on this, exactly the same as we looked at last time.
Questions?
Mm-mm.
I'll look for a motion to approve ordinance 241 regulating smoking and cannabis use in public parks.
Motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion, a second. Any further discussion?
I think this is long overdue. Had no idea. Again, I mean,
I agree.
so, yeah.
All right, with that, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Post same sign. Motion carries 5-0. With that, we'll move to council reports. Councilmember Wagner, anything to report on?
I have nothing.
Councilmember Ely.
Yeah, Saturday we have music in the parks and been working diligently on it and getting it all put together. So hope everyone comes out and enjoys it.
Great. And I'll be out of town, so I unfortunately won't be able to attend, but I'm hoping others can. With that, Councilmember McNeely,
No,
Councilmember Health. And
Not
I
right
have
now.
had no meetings since our last council meeting. So with that, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
motion.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Post same sign. We are adjourned.
This Saturday. Music in the park?
Yeah, Saturday.